Okay, so welcome everybody here tonight. This is a fairly sort of informal opportunity to chat with presidents or people from clubs around the country. And it's really an opportunity for people to share ideas, because quite often when you're in a management position with a club, you can feel like it's a very lonely position, but the reality is that any issues that you're having, probably other people have had it before. But what we'll start, as we normally do with these things, is if you can do a brief introduction to everybody, and that way. So we'll start with Toya.
Hi, I'm Toya, and I'm sure you all know who I am, except perhaps the Morrinsville folk.
I actually know you, Toya. Sorry to interrupt, because Sandy
I was going to say you're Sandy's friend, eh? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So other than that, I think Morrinsville's a great place. My grandchildren are there, so we visit quite often.
Cool.
Okay. And for those that don't know, Toya is councillor for events and also vice president. Right. Gary.
Which Gary?
Oh, Gary Jones. All right.
Yeah, I'm Gary Jones. I'm the president of the now Pororua Photography Club, or photography club. Was the Kapiti Camera Club. Yeah, so I've been president since Tuesday.
Well done. Oh,
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Exciting.
Yeah. Welcome, Gary. Yeah. For those outside of the Wellington region, Kapiti changing its name to Pororua should now remove the confusion that has existed between having Kapiti and Kapiti Coast as camera clubs. So, yeah. Right, Brian.
Good evening all. I'm the Vice President at the Cambridge Camera Club. Probably going to have a name change soon, aren't we, Angela?
Yes, look into it.
But yeah, I'm standing in just to understand a bit more about how PSNZ works. I'm also the club liaison officer for PSNZ.
Cool, welcome, Brian. Now down to the deep south, Val.
Hi everybody, I'm Val Waddell and I'm co-president of the Southland Photographic Society. We've had a few issues, and so Steph and I decided that perhaps we could take on the role as co-presidents, and so so far that's been working very well.
Cool. And Stephanie.
And I'm the other half of the double act. Yeah, what we've done is we have headhunted who we wanted for our next president, put them in as vice president, and said that we will be here and get things really back on track. And we've got a really vibrant program going. We've got an excellent vice president coming up as president, who's taking a really more and more of a part in the club. So yeah, I feel we're in pretty good heart at the moment. We've got quite a few new members this year, which was surprising because we lost quite a few sort of at the beginning of COVID, but we've really picked up in membership again this year.
Cool. Gaina.
Hi, I'm from the Ashburton Photographic Society.
Cool. What role do you have? Sorry, you're on mute.
I'm president of the Ashburton Photographic Society,
just
this year, so new.
Cool. Right, Angela.
Hi there, I'm the Cambridge Camera Club president, and probably on my second term, I think. And yeah, we've recently moved to Matamata, and it's a very small club, and somehow I became president straight away. There weren't any takers, so I thought, well, I've just moved here, I'm going to help out. So yeah, so I'm here in two hats.
Cool. Well, welcome. Mike.
Mike Ganaway from the Military Camera Club. I'm the president there. Second term of mine, probably very close to the third term now. Of course, we're in May. Yeah, welcome.
Welcome, Mike. Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda Lang. I'm the president of Auckland Photographic Society. I want to know how you lot will manage to get vice presidents and people who are going to take on the job after you go, because every time I say I've had enough, everybody runs for cover. So I would really like us to be able to talk about that.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. Okay. We'll look that down. Wayne.
I'm Wayne from Morrinsville. I'm also wearing two hats. I'm the president of the Morrinsville Camera Club that's only newly formed. Our first meeting 4 months ago, and slowly getting things set up with a good team behind me. And I'm also the president of the Tiara Club as well, because one of those situations is quite a small club, and the guy who was the president there is sort of aging and can no longer sort of do the job, and nobody else was prepared to take it on. So we're trying to get that there back on its feet and that as well. So yeah, we've got a tall order to do with the Tiara side, but the Morrinsville one seems to be going well. Everyone who's been there over the last 3 to 4 months, if they all paid up membership fees, we'd probably have between 30 and 40 members on our first year, what I think is outstanding for a small town.
That's awesome. Awesome. Joe.
I'm a new president at Queenstown Photography Club, but like Angela, I only moved to Queenstown 18 months ago, joined the club, and now I'm the president. So don't move to a small town.
Right. Jason.
Jason, all-round Dogs Body Committee member of Morrinsville Camera Club. Also still a member of the Thames Camera Club as well, where I've spent a little bit of time, but Morrinsville's a lot closer drive than going to Thames, so still doing a bit of both.
And judging by your background, a Star Wars fan.
Absolutely, yes. Just waiting for the Obi-Wan story to be released on Netflix on the 27th.
All right.
So
well, I'll show you this.
Oh, lovely. Love it. Excellent.
Okay, Gary McCormick.
McClintock.
Sorry.
It's all right. It's a common mistake. Hi, Gary from the Dunedin Photographic Society. I'm the president there and finishing my third term. And we too have not done our succession planning as well as Stephanie and Val have. Maybe Stephanie would like to be president of two clubs.
Only if you're going to meet on Zoom, Gary.
You do, don't you, Gary?
We do until next month. So we have our last Zoom meeting happening next on Monday coming, and then we're going to return to face-to-face meetings. But we have a mix. We will maintain a mix. I won't go into that too much now.
Yeah,
I'm happy to talk
cool.
about it. But we will maintain a mix of Zoom and face-to-face as our usual business as usual.
It's cool.
And as a member of DPS as well, I have to say that they have done an absolutely wonderful job of programming through the last 2 years. I've been really impressed, Gary. I love DPS meetings, especially on Zoom.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Rachel.
Oh, right. Yeah. So I'm Rachel Smith, as you can see, and just come on board as a secretary for our newly formed Morrinsville Camera Club, and I'm really excited about it. I've only been doing photography for about coming up 5 years now, and so I've got absolutely loads to learn, but I just enjoy being with people who are all of the same mind, and and it's nice being around people who have lots of experience and want to share, and it's exciting. So yeah, no,
Cool.
I'm enjoying. Wayne started it off, and so I thought I'd help out, and we've got some good. It's really great to see actually the enthusiasm of a lot of people that we do have. So yeah, no, really rearing to go.
Awesome. Well done.
Yeah.
Rochelle.
Kia ora, everyone. I'm Rochelle Johnston. I'm the Vice President of the Manawatu Camera Club. Yeah, we've gone through a bit of a revival and over lockdown and COVID, and we're experiencing growth in our club, which is fantastic. And hopefully that will keep on going. We've been ramping up and changing our program of delivery to cope for the new members, and that's, you know, creating its own teasing problems at times, with the committee sort of being stretched left, right and centre.
Yep. And finally, last but not least, Robert.
Yeah, hi guys. Thanks, Paul. I'm president of the Wanaka Camera Club, and we're in pretty good shape at the moment. We're well, it's a small club. We've got 42 members. We've had a great autumn. We had a autumn colours workshop recently. And I talked to Toya, I think, the other day about the possibility of having a Southern Regional meeting here, which we're still happy to go ahead with. Yeah, that's about it. We're also having trouble finding my successor, and we don't have a vice president or a secretary at the moment, so I'm doing secretarial work as well. But c'est la vie. Thanks, Paul.
Okay. Well, welcome. And for those who don't know me, I'm Paul Whittam. I am president of PSNZ. This has just started my second term of it. Funnily enough, we have succession problems as well. So
you do indeed.
My task basically for the next 4 or 5 months is actually to locate the successor. That's because the PSNZ Constitution actually has requirements in it as to who can actually stand for president. So unless we amend,
and I'm not standing.
Yeah, and unless we amend the Constitution. Yeah. Okay. So when I sent the email out from this, I said that I wanted to sort of cover about 3 things, and then we can have a free chat of any topics that you guys want to raise. The first was just an update on what's happening with PSNZ at present. Then I wanted to have a little bit of a discussion where open forum in terms of how clubs are dealing with COVID now, and as we sort of move out of the, well, I would suggest we've almost moved into a point where it's almost no more than what the flu season effect would be, even though the numbers are, you know, significant. And then the final one is just some guidance on something that we're looking at getting, putting together, and that's an info pack for incoming presidents. So without further ado, I'll start with just giving you a brief update on where a couple of things are. Obviously, we were terribly disrupted this year with the convention having to be cancelled. We made the decision early in terms of it, and I think as a result, fortunately, nobody lost any money in the process. We even got a full refund from the hotel for the deposit, so PSNZ didn't lose any money on it. It was a toss a coin on everything, because we really didn't know how things were going. And as it turned out, with the way that the traffic light system changed and everything, there was a possibility that we could have actually run it when the case, but it wasn't feasible with the numbers.
No, they went to red, Paul. They couldn't have coped with the numbers inside.
Yeah, but by the time the weekend was on, we were on that orange number. But The reality is anybody who's actually had to work in a mask will know that they're not the most pleasant things to be in for only an hour or so. So having 3 or 4 days of you in it, it was not feasible. So it was the right decision to go. It's changed a few things. I mean, we are looking at getting some online stuff actually happening this year. We've got pretty good support still with our trade partners, and we're actually hopeful that they're all going to sign up as partners. We've had Fuji and Epson have already committed, and the others nobody's come back and said no. They're just working through the various processes that they actually have to go through. And what we're hoping to actually use those guys is that we will put together a series of online events, some of which will be general type events, but also some of them I'm looking to make them quite specific. So those of you who used to go to up until I think it was about 2018, I'm going to say, or 17, Canon used to have a Canon specific session at the convention where all the Canon shooters could go and actually they'd give some tips on how to use their cameras. I'm looking at getting the trade guys to actually do that. So we'll get Nikon, we'll get Fuji, and so if you don't shoot that system, it will be of no interest to you whatsoever. But if you do shoot that system, it'll be an opportunity to actually get face to face with people who actually know those systems inside out. Because we know that if you're outside of about 5 centres in New Zealand, then your camera retailer is probably Harvey Norman.
Paul,
yeah.
Can I just check? So what you're talking about here, are you talking about this as a kind of a backup for what hasn't happened, or are you talking this as something that's going to augment what will happen at the next convention? I'm not quite sure.
It's going to augment.
Right.
But the next convention is not, we're not holding any conventions this year.
Yes, understand that. Yeah.
So it's basically, it was always intended to be in addition to what we would have normally held, but it's just, we haven't been able to hold it anyway. Right. You will have seen stuff already come out. The Judge Accreditation Panel are holding 4 training weekends this weekend. The first one's coming up very shortly. I think it's in Ariwa. So there's 2 in the North Island, 2 in the South Island. They are quite good weekends. Even if you're not interested in actually becoming a judge initially, they're very good sessions in terms of understanding what judges look for in images. So it can help with your photography to a certain degree, or you can equally get to the point of deciding that judges don't understand my work anyway, so I'm just going to be happy in what I produce. We're also looking at developing an online critique session. Now, it's currently under development in terms of which form it will take, and it may actually end up taking both forms. One form of it is as a sort of a digital print circle. For those of you who are not familiar with it, we have, for quite a number of years, we've had what are called print circles, which is a group of about 10 photographers, and they get a folder which contains images, and generally you put 2 images in one for each round, and the folder goes around the group and people critique the image or offer suggestions. And then when it comes back to you again, you replace the folio that's everybody has seen with a new print. These things have been going for quite a few years, and there's actually quite a few print circles in existence, but obviously not everybody prints these days, and it is, while it's not a huge cost, it is a cost to some people. And so we're looking at an alternative in terms of digital. The second side is actually an online critiquing. And the way that I'm sort of envisaging it, and I've expressed to the person organizing it, is that people would have an opportunity to submit an image, and we might take 10 or 15 images. They'd be given off to a judge for them to critique, and the critique would be given back online over Zoom. The critique would be recorded and then would be available. My target market for this sort of thing is that we do have a lot of members who are not members of clubs. And we also, not all clubs do critiquing. So even those that belong to a club, there may or may not be an opportunity to get somebody to actually have a look at your work. So that's a watch the space on. And then the final thing that I want to raise is that we're looking probably, I'm going to say September, October sometime. You'll be aware that obviously COVID not only affected the convention, but it also affected the Honours Board's assessment. That is now happening in June. But because we've moved the convention, there was going to be a significant gap between when the successful people received their letters to when a convention was to actually bestow them. So what we have done, we're working with C.R. Kennedy, who traditionally sponsor the Honours Dinner, and we're looking at holding 2 Honours banquets or dinners where people within those areas will be presented with their certificates. Now, the exact location of them, we will not be able to know until the Honours Board have made their assessments, because what we're going to do is we're going to look at where the spread of the people are, and then look at placing something in a centre that's accessible to the people. And then in addition to that, to actually make it attractive for people to actually travel to come to this dinner if they have to travel, we're looking at partnering with some of our trade partners and actually putting something on in the afternoon, which will be open to other people to come and well. So it's not going to be a workshop, because our workshops are deliberately sort of limited in numbers. It may be a talk, it may be a series of demonstrations or something like that, but its exact format and exact location is still being worked on. And as I say, we are pretty much, we can't make any firm assessments until the end of June, which is now when the Honours Board are assessing, because there was little point in actually saying that we're going to have an event in Auckland when it turned out that, you know, nobody in Auckland had actually submitted honours or received honours. So that's a sort of a watch this space. Right. Are there any questions on any of that? Sure. Linda?
Yeah, sort of to do with that, but slightly off track.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain? I've had a lot of people ask me, a lot of our club members ask me about future conventions, what they're going to involve and what's going on. And there's quite a few people at this stage, I hate to say, who have decided that they no longer are paying for their fees for PSNZ until they know exactly what's going on with conventions. I can't give them any answers because I'm unsure myself. I know that there's not going to be field trips. Can you explain what sort of program I can let these people know they can accept or they can look forward to? Because I'm trying very hard to convince people that PSNZ's a really good place to be, because as you know, we've got Moira and we've got several people who are really involved with PSNZ, but I'm finding it quite hard work.
Okay. I'm going to say that there's two aspects to it. One, the actual program itself is still being developed. Okay. We made a number of decisions. We had a situation basically where we had no clubs volunteering to actually host conventions. And we've been trying and cajoling and, you know, and it got to the point where it was just not sustainable. This was even though running a full convention was very profitable for the club themselves, you know. I mean, it's no secret because it's actually in the accounts that Christchurch got $19,000 out of the last year's convention. We moved to a notion of a central committee, and we started to actually organize Rotorua on that basis. Obviously, it got pushed back a year because of COVID, and then it got seriously affected again by COVID. And that gave us an indication of just how hard it was to actually organize one of these things when you were really remote from the location. Now, there'd been a number of a survey done a number of years ago, which actually asked why did people not go to convention? And the Queenstown Convention, which I think was 2016, was the only one of the 5 conventions where the major reason why people didn't go to it was the cost. In all other cases, the reason why people weren't going to it was because it clashed with other things. And so we started to look at the fact of, is it because of the time of year that it is? It was linked to April because the AGM was held at it, and the AGM had to be held within 6 months of the year. But the reality was that April was not an overly great time when you fed in everything that actually linked into the convention, because it actually meant that you were calling for entries for the national exhibition or for the honours over a period when most of the Kiwis are actually on holiday and don't want to do anything with it, you know. You then, because you then tried to leave that to the last minute, you really compress the amount of time between when those things closed and the convention, which actually put a huge amount of pressure on the people who actually had to fill in those various things. And I'm sure Stephanie will agree with that one with the honours, you know. So we made a decision to actually move it to October. And we then, we'll be honest, we actually looked at what we could practically organise, and it was decided to basically locate it, the first one, back in the Hutt Valley at a venue that we actually knew we could work with. We knew that it actually provided us with the facility that we needed. And we were given the opportunity to actually get a very good price on it. Now, and so we locked it in for 3 years. Now we know that that doesn't please people who actually have had the convention as part of their holiday program, because, but it was a toss-up between whether we actually tried to move it, which was becoming more and more impractical to actually do, or to actually lock it in it and say, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the program, the core program. Now, the thing that hasn't been, I guess, has not been communicated well enough in terms of all the discussions, is that we have pulled field trips out of the core part of the convention, but we are actually going to organize something, whether they are field trips or workshops or whatever, which will exist on either side of the convention itself. So for those people who want to extend the trip and do something like that, they can do those. But for other people who actually don't, who work and who don't want to give, use all their leave up on this thing, then there will be the convention, which will center around a program that's a lot more simple. The reality is that, and I know Stephanie was involved in organizing the Queenstown Convention. Field trips, the planning and the logistics of handling multi-field trips takes a lot of resource. And so by pulling it out of the central committee and then assigning another group of people to actually organize it, it actually spares the load. We've been, now I know that there's been claims that what we've done is we've shrunk the national convention to a regional convention. That is just because of the number of days. We are actually going to have regional conventions. We've got strong interest from South Island clubs to hold something down there. And we've actually got interest from clubs in the northern, the old northern region. Now, the old northern region last had a regional convention in, I think, 2014. But we will be flipping those around. So those regional events will actually happen in April, in the April-May period. The convention will be in October. We have to, obviously, then that has a whole link around all the lead-in events. And so those dates will actually change. The dates of the National Exhibition will change. The dates for honours submissions will change. And we're gonna work with the people that are actually involved. So we'll, like with Stephanie and the honours board, we'll say, okay, well, what is a reasonable amount of time for these things to close, for you to do the assessment and, not bust a gut to actually get it, because we've arbitrarily said that, you've got 3 weeks to turn everything around. We've still got the workshop program. We've got 8 workshops this year, I think. I was pretty proud of the program last year. The reality is that we had 1 workshop cancelled, even though COVID affected. And that one we postponed it initially. And then unfortunately, we had to cancel it because our presenter and most of the participants were actually in areas that were locked down. So, we tried. We were flexible with some of the others. Both bird workshops, we actually reduced the numbers on them to ensure that we could have social distancing. So I think the other thing, though, that everybody's remain is that COVID's not going away. And so part of the simplification was around trying to look at what could be realistically delivered. The team that had organized, were organizing Rotorua, was also the team that had actually tried to organize Taupo. So it wasn't one event that got cancelled on them, it was 2. Yeah. You know, so I mean, the thing is that, like I say, we fully expect with any change, there will be people that like it and there will be people who hate it. And we fully expect that some people may well decide that they no longer wish to be associated with PSNZ. But equally at the same time, we're actually hoping that there are other people who haven't been able to commit 4 days, or because we keep sticking these things in the school holidays, they've actually got kids and other things that they can actually come to something. The dates for 23, sorry, on the National Convention, I think is Labour weekend. So, you know, it's going to go from the Friday through to the Sunday. Well, the Monday's off work, so they can, you know, don't have to actually take that much extra leave.
Thanks, Paul. Paul, the question I'm being asked frequently that I can't answer is, okay, if we're not doing field trips, what are we going to be doing? Are we going to be sitting in a hall for 3 days,
yeah,
listening to people and not moving and not actually, there's no hands-on, there's no interaction? That's the question I'm being asked that I can't answer.
It's going to be a mixture. There will be hands-on. It's just the scope of the hands-on. Yeah, but like I say, I mean, we are still working on this, and we will release stuff, you know, when we can, as we get it further advanced. You know, bearing in mind that most conventions were planned over 2 years. You know, the one that we had planned for Rotorua had a combination of seminars and also workshops, some of which workshops were actually not at the venue. They did go walkabout, you know, so yeah.
I'm fully aware that it's hard work. I mean, when we did the convention a few years ago in Auckland, it was quite a big team of us, and it took a lot of time and a lot of effort. It was hard work, but Justice Christchurch has actually made quite a bit of money for their effort, and I applaud that. So did we. It was, from the financial point of view, was very, very worthwhile our doing it. It's allowed us to keep our subs low for however many years it is. I think probably we did it 10 years ago. No, it wasn't 10 years ago, perhaps 6 years ago.
You did 2017 at Maipuna.
That would be right. That would be right.
Yep.
And it's allowed us to keep our subs very, very low. That's what we've used that money for. So it's well worth doing, but I can quite understand that, you know, it's hard work. So thanks for that.
Okay. Cool. I mean, obviously the trust us is what we're saying at this stage. And people will make a choice. I mean, obviously, I guess the thing with it is that most people who are members are still on the January renewal. You know, so the decision as to whether they're going to actually rejoin or not, they can, you know, they'll wait till later in the year. I mean, the difficulty with PSNZ is that it's not like a club. It is very much an opportunity organization. So we provide the opportunities for people, but if they choose not to take them up, then, you know, they get very little other than a great book. Speaking of which, the selection from that, as I understand it, is almost complete, Toya, or
It is complete. It's been sent back to Richard now.
Okay, so notification of whether you're happy or unhappy will be coming out fairly shortly. Yeah. Okay. Right, if we can move on to the next topic, and this is, I want to be more interactive in terms of, you know, how clubs are dealing with COVID, with where we're at in the COVID cycle, and what your thinking is in terms of how you're planning on going forward. We have deliberately not issued guidance. I know in the very first part that we did, we discussed it at length at council, and we actually decided that, one, we're not medical experts. So the simple thing there was saying, follow the advice of the health department. And then the second one was that clubs can have different risk appetites based on what's in their area and how people are feeling, like that. So I'll open it up to you guys.
Well, I think the Rob here. I think the the whole idea of COVID, we just don't know what's going to happen in the next year or two with the new variants coming out and how infectious they are and how successful the vaccinations are. So in a way, our near future is still up in the air a little bit. Excuse me, we've had to cancel our March and April meetings, but we had a May meeting last week, which was successful. And we've encouraged the members to take part in small day trips, and we're still planning weekend trips away. So there's still a possibility. I'm just thinking about also your idea of having trips, workshops attached to the convention, and there's no reason why you can't modify your what do you call them, your day trips at the time of convention to limiting people to taking out cars at the maximum of 3 or 4 people in a car at one stage. There are other ways of doing your activities around the national convention. So we're just trying to keep things rolling, and we're really relying a lot on more day trips and weekend trips for people who want to go. Having said that, we've got 3 people on chemotherapy in our club, and they're really very restricted as what they want to do. So that's all I want to say.
Cool. Thanks, Robert.
You're coming from the Milesville Club. We started up in February, was our first meeting, and as you know, we're still sort of under things there. But I suppose we got around it in a way that we bought tea and coffee so people could sit down like being in a cafe scenario. But it was up to the individuals whether they had face masks on or not, being in that sort of scenario. And to be honest, most of them still wore their face masks. They were just happy to be there. So it's been, as far as that goes, it's been really good. We've got even though there could be 30 to 40 members there, we've got a big diversity from the youngest ones being late college age, right through to one about 80 odd and a lot in between. So it's good to see across the board, actually.
Gary, you said, sorry, I was going to say, Gary, you said that Dunedin is going back to meeting in person. You're on mute.
I'm just very, very quiet.
Shift the microphone up. Is that better?
Yep.
Yeah, when we look back, I think not everybody in the club will agree in society, but I think a lot of people agree that COVID has actually been an opportunity for us, and we've changed quite a lot as a result of COVID, and we'll maintain those changes. So we meet. This was also post a merger of the Dunedin Camera Club and the Dunedin Photographic Society. And when we merged the two groups, what we decided we didn't want to do was to essentially bring one into the other and carry on as we'd been. We wanted to create something different. So that and COVID coincided. And we now have a 4-week program. We meet every Monday, the first 4 Mondays of the month. The first one is what we call a viewfinder session. And what we learned through COVID is that you can find speakers all around the world. And using Zoom, we have had speakers literally from 4 corners of the world. And we've had some exceptional photographers and speakers. And I know Stephanie's joined. I'm not sure if anyone else has. We made the offer. Stephanie's a member, so. But I hope you'd agree, Stephanie, that we have had some exceptional and amazing presenters.
Absolutely awesome. And it's pushed our club to doing something similar here at SPS.
Good.
CPS.
And the other, yeah. And so the other thing that it also did was it was a way of keeping our members who live a bit further away, who don't come to meetings regularly, to be able to join as well. So we do that on the first Monday. On the second Monday of the month, we have a face-to-face meeting, and that always has a speaker, and we have either a print of the month or a projected image of the month. And then on the third, we have what we call focus groups, and there are 4 or 5 of those groups that are set up around a topic, and they are self-sustaining in terms of what we do. So we set up a street photography group. We've got a natural history. It's got a whole lot of things, macro, astro, all included in it. We've set up an honours group for people who are interested in looking at honours, and we've got a special projects group, and they just run themselves. And the third Monday of each month, that just happens. And then we have the fourth Monday, we go back and we have another face-to-face meeting, speaker, and the either print or projected image. And across the year, we have things like, coming up on Monday, we've got our projected image exhibition, our seasonal exhibition, our big competition, if you like. And we decided that rather than go back to doing that face-to-face, we would do that via Zoom because it makes more sense, and we've done that for other things. So it hasn't pleased everybody, there's no doubt about it, but it has pleased a lot of people, and so we will do that. When we go back we're going back to face-to-face meetings, we've resisted going back at this point because we do believe our membership, we have quite a lot of older members who are at risk health-wise. And we've taken on board the requirements of the hall that we use, and also the Ministry of Health recommendations in making those decisions. Having said that, we've decided that we're going to go back with masks, and before we made that decision, I had people who contacted me saying, if we have to wear masks, I'm not coming, and I had people contact me saying, if we don't wear masks, I'm not coming, so you can't win that one. So we believe that it's about a precaution rather than a restriction, and so we're going with that. So come the second Monday in June, we'll see how many people front up for our first meeting. Has been not a call, but a question around whether or not we would look at trying to make that a kind of have an online version of it, stream it or whatever. But at this stage, we're not really very keen on that because it is a lot of work for someone to do. Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at.
Gary, if you don't mind me asking, what's the size of your membership, and what is the percentage of participation that you get from your membership on each of those sort of four nights of the month?
So our membership would probably sit at around 80.
Right.
That's 80 financial members. Yep. And on a good viewfinder night with a speaker from overseas, we might get 40. So probably sits at around 50%. And probably the same for face-to-face would sit at around 50%. Yeah. Okay. Oh, the other thing, we made a decision probably maybe, what would it have been, February, that we would continue with field trips, but that was at everybody's personal choice, really. You make the choice to join those. So we still support field trips, and we have those happening fairly regularly.
Auckland's done something very, very similar in some of those ways, Gary. Because of the lockdown situation here, because of course we were the baddies for quite a long time, we've not had face-to-face meeting for quite some time, like probably a couple of years now. We're all pretty good at Zoom. We learned that very quickly. We also are going back into the hall next month. Now, part of the reason that we haven't gone back, we've got close to 100 members, and a lot of ours are older or compromised in some way whatsoever. And we actually put out a survey, and we had a 66% reply to stay on Zoom. That was obviously of the people who replied, but we had quite a good reply rate. But the thing that we've done that's kept us going quite nicely, quite well, we have a monthly competition meeting, and it's meant that we can get our judges from all over the place, which has been really a positive thing, because of course they come in with totally different take on what's being offered to them to critique. But we've formed online or on Zoom critique groups, small groups, very, very similar, Paul, to the print circles. And it started off with a small novice group. It was led and it was run along the lines of, they were given ideas on how they should critique, because what they have to do is present an image, and everybody within the group talks about it, and they do the sandwich version of critiquing, whereby you say something that's positive. You know, I like this because it's red and that's my favorite color. And then you think about something that you are suggesting that might be worth looking at, and it's controlled in the way that nobody says, if that was mine, I'd change the red to a purple. They're not allowed to do anything like that. It's all done in a positive way. Have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about doing that? Wonder about this, wonder about that. And then they finish with a positive. They leave with a positive idea. It's the same sort of evaluation circle that most businesses do when they're doing professional development. What it has done is taken our novice entry numbers from zero, literally zero, for probably 6 or 7 months, up to about 20, and a lot of them are getting honours from different judges. It's given them the confidence. It's also given them skills to look at other people's work and critique it in such a way that they bring some knowledge to it. It's worked very well. And because the first group was successful, we've gone on from there, and we've now got 4 different groups going. So for us, that's worked really, really well. And even though we are coming out of pure Zoom, because Auckland's no longer in lockdown, we're going to be going back into the hall, as I said, next month. But people are asking for hybrid meetings, and that's a bit of a worry. We've got a couple of guys who think they know how to do it, so we'll give it a go.
Christchurch are doing hybrid meetings, so they broadcast, if you like, for want of a better word, their meetings, I understand. Yeah.
Okay, I might.
Teams did hybrid last year. We did hybrid last year. We did Zoom. It's pretty straightforward as such. So club meetings, we were at the community centre in Thames, and we just have a camera set up with Zoom broadcasting. Just all you can do is capture the best you can with a wide angle camera and a reasonable microphone. And members, once again, the ones that were older or just didn't feel comfortable with coming in, they were quite happy to jump on the live feed and check out what was going on. And it was interactive there. They could have input to the meeting and stuff as well. So
was it successful, Jason?
Yeah, it was. One of the big challenges we had at Teams last year was the isolation. I mean, Coromandel's a big enough place as it is, and trying to get members, you know, they're coming from Pawanui or Whitianga even and stuff like that. And so in some ways it was we could get people involved even more than what we could otherwise. I don't know what they've done so much this year because I haven't been over there for a little while, but yeah, it did work pretty well. It was just allowing people to do what they felt comfortable with was the big secret. That was it. You know, you can't force anyone to do anything, and just try and make as much of an allowance for people as you can.
Mike, you guys do hybrid type as well, didn't you?
At the moment, we've been doing online only because the club grew at a rate where we could no longer meet physically. We've just solved that problem with new rooms, so that's good. So we're meeting next Monday, and it will be probably a hybrid version, although we may or may not do that live. So we may record it and then release it, or we may do it live. We haven't decided yet. We'll probably trial it out and see what we do.
Yeah, I think WPS Wellington was doing that. They have tried both hybrid, and the last one, they set up a Zoom session for it, although I happened to notice that nobody seemed to be connected to it, but it gave them the opportunity to actually record what was being presented. And then they were going to put that up on their YouTube channel.
Yep.
So, yeah.
It's an interesting idea, by the way, to just use a Zoom as a recording feature.
Yeah. Well, everything's built in because you've got shared screens, and you know, you don't have to actually worry about editing content into it. No, you can do it you can edit it on the fly almost.
Yeah, we just share it straight into our Facebook members only group, and it was recorded there for all eternity, and people can still jump back in.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a workshop, it's pretty cool.
I think the fundamental problem that you run into with hybrid and trying to get people involved between the two sessions is actually sound. You know, I know that when they Christchurch did convention, and they brought Julianne in by Zoom, but effectively that became almost a webinar because it was realized that it was, you know, too difficult to actually get for the people in the room for her to actually be able to hear them or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like a number of other people here, our Zooms have allowed us to connect with people at a distance. So we have, being in the middle of the lower North Island, we have a lot of areas like the East Coast, up through the rural areas where there are no camera clubs. So people from there have then connected in. So it is quite a valuable tool in that way of connecting people at a distance. But yeah, there are tricks to it as well.
I think we're entering a phase where we've been hybrid for 2 years, and we've gone back this year to having practicals in person, but they've been predominantly outside, so we've been able to socially distance and be a bit more relaxed. But we've recognized the need for the face-to-face, how important it is to actually build friendships in amongst the club, because that's what then keeps people coming back again and again and again. And if they're not necessarily getting the results that they would like, they've still got something to look forward to that's giving them a foundation within the club. So there is real value in that face-to-face. Online, one person can talk at a time. You kind of stuck talking to that one person, whereas if you're in a building, you can move around different groups of people and get to know people in a different space.
Yeah.
We've been able to do that with our special interest groups and our practicals, but we're just at a place where there is merit in having both.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, to me, with the way technology is now, there's no need to necessarily go to a location to listen to a speaker, because I can sit from home and I can hear people from all around the world, and I can hear the ones that interest me, not topics that interest other people. But where you where you miss out on is that contact with other people. It's that, you know, the couple of minutes of saying, well, you've got the same camera, it never does something for me, right? And somebody saying, have you tried this dial? You know, and that's, I guess, my biggest fear is how clubs can regain that momentum through this period, especially if they haven't been particularly good at keeping in contact with the members that they've got during these lockdowns, you know.
It's definitely much harder for the bigger clubs to make contact with each of your members. I think we were very blessed that we've had a core group of members who have very strong relationships, and then as we've grown, we have been able to tack on the new person into established groups. And we've done that through introducing special interest groups, which was new to us, that we stole from some of you other clubs, I think, from the last time we met. And being able to go, you're interested in landscape, here, join a landscape group. That landscape group go and does stuff, and then they start building that relationship that way outside of the online platform.
Okay.
And I see that as quite a valuable method of building leaders as well. So that there are people out there who are taking a little bit more responsibility for people and slowly become more confident in doing it.
Yeah, cool. Great. Oh, well, hopefully, you know, it's all going to go away. And I see the latest one is now monkeypox. You know, just so they can keep us on a edge. All I can say is that anybody who bought Pfizer shares in 2019 must be really loving it.
I think they've made $5 billion from out of New Zealand population so far.
Yeah.
And I think they're charging $30 a vaccination. So population of 5 million. We're going to go for our 4th dose soon, I think. They're doing pretty well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Paul, sorry, I missed a bit there. Paul, our club decided a couple of months ago that we would come back to face-to-face meetings, and it's slowly growing back again. You know, one meeting when we tried to have a special general meeting, it really had 14, so it didn't quite make it there. But it's we're getting a few more people coming back, and I think we're finding it more enjoyable to be together rather than face to face. And it'd be nice when we can get to the tea and bickies. We haven't quite got there yet, but we've, you know, because we're insisting on the masks, which are, yeah, as you say, they're a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
And we're starting to introduce now more field trips as well. So we've got, I think, Capity coming up this weekend, and then the following weekend is portraits. 2 weeks after that, I'm organising a trip to Capity, and then we've got Glenburn after that. So we're trying to get people to interact more.
It's good.
Well, Southland Photographic Society has pretty much stuck with the Zoom meetings, and those have been going pretty well. We've had around about 30 or so at most of those meetings, and I think, yeah, we did lose people with lockdown, but we've got new members and we're growing. And also we were very fortunate to have a workshop last weekend, and people were so enthusiastic about being able to get together again. No masks, getting out there and photographing, learning, And we were very lucky that we were through to Glenorchy last weekend, because they're talking about black ice through there this weekend. So, so I think we were very lucky. So we are holding fire at the moment, because the rooms that we use, we probably wouldn't be able to social distance. I know there will be people who won't be keen on wearing their masks for the whole meeting, and so that may be an issue for us, but we've decided to hold fire through June and July, and look at starting back in August. So that's our thinking at the moment.
Don't forget that
I'm Jo from Queenstown, and we've actually been, because Queenstown I think we're a little bit away from the COVID thing for quite a while, so we were able to continue normally for quite a long time. So we have actually only cancelled one meeting, which was March this year, and we have even met up in April and May this year, but numbers have been well down on our normal groups. I mean, we're a small club anyway, but you know, we're sort of probably only maybe had 15 people at the last meeting, but we it's the field trips, I think, that are we're still trying to keep those going, because that's popular, and we're doing some special interest groups online to try and minimize meeting up. But yeah, it's hard with the mask thing, you know, like we meet up in a room, it's a St. John's room, so, but at the same time, you know, you're trying to talk and explain things and wearing a mask, you know, and you've got older people that can't hear, and yeah, the mask thing is a real pain. So but yeah, so it's interesting, I think, hearing that so many of you are still actually doing a lot of online stuff. Maybe we should be doing more online still, I don't know. But, yeah,
that's cool.
Interesting listening.
Yeah, just one thing about Cambridge. We haven't embraced the online Zoom meetings. We tried it for a couple of results presentations, but I think we only had about 3 people sign in. We've maintained social distancing, and the rules governing our meetings, our face-to-face meetings, are actually mandated by the venue owners, who said that everyone should be double vaccinated, and we had to have proof. And of course, I'm a big guy, I had to be on the door to make sure everyone was double vaccinated to get them in. But our members seem to have embraced it fairly well. We had a drop off of members slightly, but they're starting to come back in now. So we find it's more the social aspect that draws people in. And like you said, Paul, the discussion of, hey, I can't get my camera to work. Oh, press this button, do this on the dial. That works very well for our club. And so we're just stepping ahead, doing as much face-to-face now as we can.
Okay. Gaynor, do you want to add anything? You're on mute.
Still on mute.
Better. We've just been carrying on as normal, really. We've had face-to-face, and we have Zoom meetings for our competitions, which is every second fortnight, so once a month we have a Zoom meeting with competition results. But other than that, we've just carried on as normal.
Okay. Yeah, one of the advantages of using Zoom for assessment presentations back, of course, is that you can actually record it and then make it available for those that can't make the meeting, which is what Manawatu did the other night, didn't you?
Yep.
So, and we'd done that with the Hut Camera Club before it folded. In fact, we did a hybrid where we actually we were all in the room and brought the assessor in via Zoom and then recorded it, you know, which is and the reality of it was that although there was no Wi-Fi in the facility, we just set it up, used my phone to create a Wi-Fi zone, And even though it went for an hour and a bit, it used very little data. I was quite surprised actually how little it used. So, you know, the technology is there and it's relative. I mean, when it works, it's relatively simple and relatively good. I mean, obviously you do have problems. I'm in my dining room tonight because this is where the best Wi-Fi is for doing these things. If I try to do it in my office, all of a sudden things start freezing, but yeah. Okay, great. Well, that was a good discussion. The other thing that the next thing that I wanted to cover, and I'm not in, this is more for you to think about, and then if you can feed back to me rather than us discussing it tonight, okay, is for some time, we've been concerned about the number of emails that we send out from PSNZ to clubs that don't get opened. In fact, in some cases, it's like 50% of the emails that we send out, where we are trying to actually get information to your club members who are not PSNZ members about things that are happening. We're not quite sure where the blocks are. And some of it may well be that the people who've actually opening them have not interested in PSNZ or whatever. The other thing that Jane Mueller, who's councillor for club liaison, she's been spending a bit of time on the phone with presidents and people in the clubs. And what she's been noticing is that we're getting a lot of clubs who have got presidents now who've had very little or no interaction with PSNZ. Whereas in the past, you know, generally people were in the clubs for a number of years before they stepped into the president's role. And therefore, by that time, they will have gone through a couple of cycles of knowing that PSNZ does this, does that, does the other. We're now getting people who are, you know, even Hut Club had a situation where we had a person who joined 1 year and next year was president. And so what we're looking at is putting together an information resource for new presidents, but making it wider than simply saying it'll have a background to PSNZ and the various things that it does, and also how it actually interacts, well, the interaction between the club and PSNZ. But we're also thinking about expanding a little bit more so that it's a more practical thing of, you know, you suddenly volunteered to be a president or something. Here are some things or some areas that you could look at that perhaps might give you some guidance on, things to be aware of, and just relying, just trying to make it a useful piece of information for people who may not have a lot of background knowledge or might feel uneasy, you know, about how they deal with these things. Any thoughts? Waste of time? Good idea?
Yeah, Angela here.
Sounds great.
Yeah, good idea.
I think it would be strengthened by trying to maintain something like this as well. I think, you know, again, just linking and seeing other people in a similar role and hearing would strengthen it a lot. I think and also having a link back to somebody from PSNZ like yourself who can speak to things is really helpful. I'm just speaking for myself, you know, emails, I get enough of those, lots of, yeah, I don't read them all that well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not intending to actually to replace anything. And certainly
I understand
this is, you know, I found these forums quite useful. And I hope the people that actually have come on them have found them useful. It's just the problem that I guess you get into, and it's been highlighted over the last 6 months, 9 months actually now, isn't it, Toya? Since September last year. So we had a situation where we probably had the largest single change in the PSNZ Council that it probably ever had. And we had a lot of people who actually stepped up to come onto council who had very little actual prior interaction with PSNZ. And it's taught us about the fact that it's very dangerous when you get into discussions with people where you have a level of knowledge about something and you make the assumption that they do too. You know, and we flow a lot of terminology. We have a lot of, you know, salons. We have a lot of events. We do a lot of things. We have a lot of bylaws that occasionally don't get read properly, as Val, you think you picked up with the National Exhibition?
Was it the National Exhibition? Something or other anyway.
Yeah, it was the results. Yeah, yeah. You know, so yeah.
Well, that's one of the questions I had then, was based on, because for a while, was it a year ago or a year before, there was the mentorship program, you know, for photographers and all that sort of stuff. Is this sort of along the same lines potentially of the new president mentorship from an experienced president, you know, or committee or something like that, similar type of thing? Hey, this is, even if it's into president, or, you know, whatever, I don't know.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea, Jason.
It is. It's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because effectively, I guess Val and Stephanie, you're from your
around the block a bit.
That's pretty much what, you know.
32 years in August, I think it is for me.
I'm just thinking of our club, and like we're a new committee and we're, you know, throwing it out there, and to hear the feedback come back to say, hey, there's new presidents going into clubs that haven't, you know, they've just got there and blah blah blah, and they're probably going, oh my goodness, what do I do?
Yeah.
Some of these words that pop out and all that sort of thing, I'm sure that there'd be some benefit in getting it's great succession stuff too, you know, because at some point we're not all going to be here. So if people are given that comfort zone that, hey, there is support to step into these roles, not just from within the club, but, you know, Brian, you're just down the road from us in Cambridge. You've probably got a few tricks you can teach us, you know, that type of idea.
Yeah.
How do we get in touch? What's a you know, a kind of a process to do that?
Yeah, well, I was thinking along similar lines. Jo said she's in Queenstown and she's a new president, and I'm sort of thinking, well, Steph and I have had, a lot of experience as presidents and running exhibitions and salons, and so we've been around the block a bit, and so we could probably offer some support if Jo needs it.
Yes.
That's
awesome. Jo's already left the room and running towards you.
The one thing I would say, Paul, is that I don't know whether PSNZ has thought about it, but like I came from North Shore Club up in Auckland, which is a big club, quite an active club, and so there was a lot of PSNZ stuff. I mean, everyone belonged, most of the members seemed to belong to PSNZ, and it was all kind of ingrained in you. So I came down to Queenstown. It was quite a shock, the difference down here in terms of PSNZ was regarded as quite a like, whoa, big kind of organization, a bit scary. And I'm just wondering whether having some sort of a friendly approach to smaller clubs might help, like in terms of just some way to break that fear, because that seems to be what I'm having to work through. Like, I mean, Jane's been great having her as a liaison person, and I'm trying to work with the club members, and like I'm trying to get a set together for the Trina Packer Interclub, which they've never ever done before. It's like getting blood out of a stone trying to get members to contribute images for me, but we're trying, you know. But because there's just this kind of fear of doing anything that's like, but that's this like big organization, like, you know, and it's just super scary. So somehow breaking that barrier a little bit, maybe. That would be my comment, just from being in a big club to a small club. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, you know, we've faced a couple of times over the last 2 years with clubs coming and saying, what do we get for our money? Why do we belong? And actually it wasn't just little clubs, it was big clubs. And some of it was a bit, well, not difficult to explain, but when you've got a situation, and I'll take Hut Club, even though it's a bad example because Hut no longer exists. We had, in theory, about, I think, 70 members at the time. We had about 40 active members, 25 of which I think were PSNZ members. You know, and so that group of people basically did know what was happening, but we actually had exactly the same issue, that we couldn't get sets together, and you know, but you know, and one of the things, hopefully, honestly, we're hoping that will actually improve with us moving the convention.
Yeah,
because like I said, you know, those, like the 4 interclubs,
the February ones are
we're over Christmas, January, February.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, we don't even have a meeting in January, so then suddenly it's February, and it's a complete scramble.
And two years ago, we tried to actually get that improved by pulling the entry to the 1st of December. And even that didn't work because, let's face it, most clubs in December, all they're planning is their Christmas breakup.
We've already had ours and finished for the year, so
Yeah.
No, so it is a good point. It is how it you know, and the other issue that we do run into is how do we get through when if you've got a secretary who the stuff is going into who's actually anti PSNZ, which has happened. And then, you know, we've also got things where we get members who complain that they get emails twice, you know, and we're saying, well, we can't really control that, because if we do send something to the club for it to distribute to its members, the opening line of it does say, can you please send this to your non-PSNZ members, you know?
Yeah.
You'll always get people at moan. Just ignore them.
Yeah.
I think we had an issue, Paul, when for some reason our secretary didn't get the emails from PSNZ, and we've no idea why that happened, because we've had the same secretary for a number of years. But at some stage he was going, I've been getting the information as a PSNZ member, but I haven't been getting the information to go out to the club members. Okay. And we even had that issue where we suddenly realised that our club members who were non-PSNZ weren't actually getting the access to Camera Talk. And it was discovered that the information for that was not coming to our secretary. It was it just wasn't coming, and so we only picked up on that when I had the discussion with Jane some time ago. So hopefully that's been overcome. So whether that's an issue for other clubs as well, but it was certainly an issue for us at one stage.
Mike?
We've noticed that a lot of them have been winding up in the junk filter. So what is obviously happening is somebody is putting them as junk in their system, Gmail, whatever they're using, and that is filtering up, because we're finding it in the junk mail all of a sudden as well. So yeah, I'm not sure how PSNZ beats that, because once you're labeled a junk provider, it's hard to get away from it.
Actually, that could potentially, because one of the issues that we do run into is that when we send an email out to the clubs and the clubs then send it out to their members, if any one of those members hits the unsubscribe on that email, it's actually the club's email address that gets unsubscribed. And so then we have to go through a process of getting the club resubscribed, because MailChimp is actually, which we use, is actually set up that if you take the action to unsubscribe, admins cannot subscribe you back in. So that happens quite a bit, at least once every 2 months for different clubs. But yeah, it's but Joe, it is a good point about the smaller clubs. Yeah,
I do think what Jane's been doing is great. I think she's been doing an awesome job. Yeah, it's been really helpful.
She's really enjoying it too.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't been forwarding any of the emails that we get directly to the club. I've been monitoring our email probably for the last 2 or 3 years. What I tend to do is send them to the president and send them to the secretary, and then the president in the weekly email that goes out. If we've got something for the PNZ, which we want the members to see, we'll pop it into there.
That's what we do.
Okay.
Well, that would avoid having PSNZ members receive it twice. Because they're going to get your newsletter, not two letters from us.
Yeah. Okay.
Cambridge does a web link.
Okay.
Yeah, you can hear me.
Yeah.
And in our newsletters, and that works very well. And so PSNZ members won't get 2 emails. They'll have our members have a link within the newsletter if they want to read it. Just going back to, I think what you're doing is really good. I was on the committee quite soon after I joined Cambridge Camera Club, and even though in our newsletters we had links to PSNZ, I felt I didn't understand enough about what PNZ had to offer. And when I became president, I thought, well, I should really be a member of PSNZ as well, so that I could have more understanding. And that has worked quite well. But I think what you have introduced, Paul, this forum where we can meet other presidents and get to know faces. It's a bit like having our club meeting. You know, slowly we will get to know each other a bit more, and we'll feel more confident and comfortable about asking questions and sharing ideas. And also with Jane as the liaison officer. And one thing, that's been really good, that she's contacted us and giving us the option of having a liaison officer. Our club decided it would be a good idea for the vice president, or a person that you would think that might go into that role. If they have that role, then they are also being introduced to the PSNZ as well. And I would highly recommend encouraging a member of the club who you think may be able to step up to be president with a bit of support to become the liaison officer, because I think that's a great role to have an extra duty and to help with the club, help with the running of the club as well, and a fuller understanding of what's going on.
Yeah, that's awesome, Angela.
We have a liaison officer that each meeting she speaks at and says what's going on at PSNZ, which is really good. It keeps the members in touch.
That's good.
That's good. Well, it's good to hear that that's actually, that thing that's working. And again, that was when we started to really identify that stuff wasn't getting through. We thought that the simplest way is, rather than rely on it going through the presidents, who have got lots of other things to deal with, to see if we could find people who were PSNZ members, or whatever most of them are, who could actually help with that link into the clubs. But yeah, that's right. Okay, folks, we've been going for an hour and a half now, and I think that's probably long enough. I thank you all for your attendance. I'm probably looking to hold these about every 2 months. I think we don't need to be once a month. It's too short a time frame. We have difficulty in terms of finding a night for these things. I think I mapped out all club meetings and only one club meets on a Friday night, which is why it was easier to pick Friday nights. I know that doesn't suit everybody, and but I thank you for spending this time with this evening, and I think it's been a very valuable discussion.
I think Friday night's a good night because it's the end of the week and I'll never do anything on Friday night anyway.
It's gin tasting night.
Oh, we'll do that anyway.
Thank you, Paul.
Just before we go,
yep.
We're all in our own areas. We all know our areas best. And I heard someone saying there before, it's really good that we get to know different presidents and bits and pieces. Just put it out there that we invite different clubs to come up or down, whatever it may be, to shoot. You know, give them 3 or 4 months notice. You guys know the best times, particularly the likes of Queenstown, around that sort of area there. I'll be honest, I've never been there. And we all know our own areas of what we can do and what we can't do, and the times that are suitable.
Great. Yeah. We are in the process. One of the other things that Jane is actually looking after is a thing that we're about to publish. It's called Great Photo Spots.
Yes.
With the intention of literally that you know your best areas, and if you're willing to share, some people are willing to share. Some people want to keep the good photo spots for themselves, and that's perfectly understandable.
Talk about you, Toya.
Sorry. No, I actually have a list of, I've added to the list of quite a few of our spots, but yeah, when there's something special, you tend to got to keep it
Yeah, appreciate that.
Before you go, or we go, I do have one question from one of our members.
Yep.
If I can just put it to you, and this is to Paul and the PSNZ members. Basically, he's wondering why the workshops are not released monthly, say a few months prior, rather in blocks of 3 or 4. Because, for example, he's interested in going to the Wellington workshop, but obviously we're not local, and he has booked a flight and he's booked accommodation, but he doesn't know whether he's going to get into the workshop. And he's obviously chosen to book it. He's got the dates, but being out of town, being from a further distance away, if you know 2 or 3 months in advance, you might be able to get one of the cheaper flights. Whereas if you only know in July that there's something going on in Wellington in August, you're not likely to get a cheap flight. Is there anything that can be done about that? And his other question was, he can't recall when the registration emails are actually sent out, but if it's not in the evening, then working folk who don't watch their personal emails during the day have little hope of getting in quick enough. Just a thought that I've been asked to share and ask you.
Yeah. Okay.
If you understood what I said.
I understood what you said, right? And it's been a, I'm going to say that this year was a little bit of a transition, because the workshop series started and was put together by James Gibson. And it was very much his baby. And for the first 2 years that had happened, they pretty much mapped all of the workshops, got all the details. He did a lot of work himself. He got a lot of the details sorted before we went out. So in the first 2 years, I think the notice that went out right at the start had all workshops.
Yeah.
Right.
And it had the dates in it, right?
And I believe that was after convention.
It was after
announced.
convention, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Obviously, James decided not to seek renomination for council last year.
Right.
But by the time that actually happened, like I say, he had already planned the whole period. We then had, so we didn't have to do anything for the rest of the year. And in fact, we didn't actually have a replacement for him. Karen Moffat-McLeod came on in September. And then unfortunately, one of the 3 people who were in the workshop committee, he decided to resign. And so they were down. So Karen had to come up to speed. And it's actually meant that this year, locking in all of the details took longer than was actually had happened in previous years.
Okay.
And so that's why the information and unfortunately also COVID again has played a havoc in terms of when we could confirm locations and places. And we also encountered, I'm not making excuses here, but we also encountered a thing where we had 2 potential presenters who we could have used, neither of which were vaccinated. And so we said, well, we can't put a mandate on our members attending these things if we're not going to turn a blind eye on presenters. So it's meant that basically the information has come out a little bit piecemeal this year. However, the thing about when the registrations are notified, that is a valid comment, and I will relay that back to Karen.
Okay.
And try to make certain that when the next batch are released, that they are actually at a time where people can, you know, get at them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess, again, watch the space that hopefully for next year we'll actually have, because it is important that we actually let people know what the whole set are, because you can only book for one.
I did read that on the, I had a look to make sure I understood, you know, the message that I was going to convey.
And again, that's, you know, I know some people don't like that, that fact. That's solely because we've got 1,200 of members.
Right.
You know, most of these workshops, I mean, I think the largest one has about 30 people on it. There's a couple of them that are quite intimate, like 12 people. And they're deliberately that size so that they've got good value on it. But we can't, you know, unfortunately, we want to share it around, and we don't want it where your money will necessarily actually dictate how many people go to various things. So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you. I hope you didn't mind me asking.
No, it's a perfectly valid question. Yeah. And, you
Paul?
know.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Yep.
Just, I don't want to drag things out too long. Next time, I suppose at our own council meeting, we had an issue come up around something we would like to discuss. We don't think it, well, I don't think it's a kind of, you know, an AGM kind of issue. And I wondered whether this might be a forum for doing that. And if so, is there a possibility of having some kind of way of adding into what we might talk about as an issue?
Yep, no problem. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. When we send the invite out for the next time, if you want to put something in, we were trying to make them, so this is the 4th one that have actually run. We ran 3 in the last year. The first one was really finding our way and how this to use. And then I did 2 of them where I had a specific sort of topic. So the second one, Shannon Doyle from WPS talked about how they use social media. And then the last one that we held last year, Mike and Rochelle talked about how Manawatu had actually used Zoom and a hybrid to actually grow their club. So, but if there's anything anybody wants to discuss, shoot it in. Yeah. Right, well, thank you, people. Wrap up warm, especially if you're down the south where those overnight temperatures had zeros against them.
Yeah, well, I heard the hail and stuff. I thought, what was that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
More snow due tonight, I think.
Yeah.
So you're in Wanaka?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Cool.
Yes. They were talking about
Worth us doing a road trip?
Eh?
Is it worth us doing a road trip up to Wanaka?
What, this weekend?
Yes.
No, it's not that low. The
Oh, right.
snow's just on the tops, really. Yeah.
And if you're in Cambridge, please look after yourself. Your trees are out there, people.
Very sad.
Yeah.
Hey, just those people in the deep south, so Joe and Robert and Stephanie and Val, we probably appreciate a chance maybe to talk as well, because I think we've certainly got a bit of interest in getting together.
It's interesting. We talked about exactly the same thing last night, Gary. So
yeah.
I'm sure we'd be happy to have a chat at some stage.
Yeah, no, I'd definitely be.
They have a top of the south group. Why not have a bottom of the south
Well,
group?
we might have a photographers down under group.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, well, they've got the Seddon Shield arrangement in the north.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And
Anyway,
there's a grouping
Be
of
very interested in getting in touch with the other southern
Because I
presidents.
think we've got 7 clubs from Wanaka across to Dunedin and Queenstown and South. So we've got 7 clubs in the area.
Perhaps we could do the off months. We have every 2 months with Paul, and then the off months, maybe, Cambridge can get together in Morrinsville and whoever else, Tiamu.
Good idea.
Better. Yep.
It's a very good idea.
Gary, we'll tee something up and get in touch with the other clubs.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, definitely. Sounds
It
good.
could be interesting if there are any
Nice to chat, Joe.
central region ones as well.
well, yeah.
You can come and join us. You can come and join us. If you
Wellington
like.
and
We'll adopt some of the Southern North Island clubs up here in the central area. That's fine.
Oh, now, come on, guys. There's none of this, we saw Dunedin actually do countrywide memberships and
Yeah.
Well, we've got members from the Wairarapa right through to Te Anau.
Yeah.
We've got members in Timaru.
So yeah. You
Yeah,
have
well, you've got Helen Westerbeeke's joined you, is she?
us.
Yeah.
She joined Dunedin.
She joined Dunedin.
All right.
No, sorry. Well, she may well have a join. One of the things we did was we offered all of our speakers a free membership.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't lose anything.
No.
Yeah, they're unlikely to join off their own bat. You offer them a free membership, they participate, and they may join again in the future. So we gave them a year's free membership.
Right.
I believe she has joined again because you guys advertised another trip to Te Anau, is it? She's already booked a flight. She's on her way.
Yes, she came on our last big club trip.
Yeah,
Yep.
and she absolutely loved it.
Yes, she had a good time, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, Toya, we'll have a Queen Charlotte Sound trip next year.
Yeah, who's saying it? Oh,
it's Gary.
Oh, well, you're actually going to do it.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know I'll be there.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know what they're talking about, Toya joined Pororua Club because they were doing a field trip down to the Sounds, and then they cancelled the field trip.
Oh, sorry.
They even had me present so that, you know, everybody knew what they were going to be doing when they got there. And I thought, well, this is good. I'll come too.
Yeah.
Didn't happen.
I was disappointed.
Yes.
not in the presentation, mind you.
I would hope not.
I'm going to have to go. I've got a phone call coming through from Australia. So
Oh, have fun.
Bye.
Yeah.
Linda.
Bye.
Time to go and
Yeah.
sort the dog.
Good night, everybody.
Hey, I'm just wondering. Oh, it'd be good to get. I'm sure we can find out. I can find them out from the websites. Get all the emails. I'll send an email. I'll do that now.
You're going to do that, Gary?
Yeah, I'll do it now.
Okay, cool.
Yep. Cool.
Don't forget Ashburton.
Oh, I think we were looking at jeepers,
We were looking at Dunedin South, really.
We're looking at Highlanders.
Highlanders territory, isn't
Highlanders
it?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Oh, you don't get into that.
Southlands and Highlanders, aren't they?
Yep.
Oh, and the Stags. Yeah.
Yeah, the Stags.
Yes, well, there's plenty of
Right.
stags in the Highlands.
Yep. Cool.
Okay, good night, team.
Okay.
Cheers. Thanks.
Have a good weekend.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you
Bye.
very much.
Right.
Bye.